Welcome to We Get Real AF, everybody. I'm Sue Robinson.
And I'm Vanessa Alava. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and comment on the show and find us on social. We're literally anywhere and everywhere. You can find us on the internet. So We Get Real AF. And again, it's Sue Robinson and Vanessa Alava.
So today we are doing another tech talk. We like to do these every week to just share a little bit about what's going on in the world of technology that we think is really interesting in tech news. So, and those of you who've been following us for a while know that we have another episode or weekly release that we do called Profesh Sesh. And the first tech talk topic that I wanted to bring up today, Vanessa, relates to kind of what we talk about in Profesh Sesh, which is how is technology impacting the way we look for jobs and the way candidates are selected for jobs? And so there was just a new report that was released by Harvard Business School that says that automated resume scanning software is contributing to a broken hiring system in the United States. And contributing to the problem of hidden workers who are individuals who are able and willing to work, but remain locked out of jobs by structural problems in the labor market. So how's it doing this? It's doing it through AI that is blocking information about candidates or blocking candidates from positions for which they would be qualified and for which they should be considered because something in the algorithm is flagging them as unqualified or skipping over them altogether. And it's pretty interesting because AI-assisted job search algorithms are used by 75% of US employers, 99% of Fortune 500 companies. And they actually became more popular starting in the 1990s as people started applying for jobs more and more online. So automated software relies on overly simplistic criteria. The exact mechanics of how the software mistakenly rejects candidates are varied, but generally stem from the use of overly simplified criteria to divide good and bad applicants. For example, some systems automatically reject candidates with gaps of longer than 6 months in their employment history without ever asking the cause for this absence. It might be due to a pregnancy or because they were caring for an ill family member or simply because they had a hard time finding a job in a recession. But they gave an example in the Wall Street Journal of hospitals who only accepted candidates with experience in computer programming on their CV, although what they really needed at the job were candidates who were just going to do basic data entry. And they gave an example of an algorithm that rejected any candidate for a retail clerk position if their resume didn't have floor buffing as one of their skills listed on their resume. So anyway, I'm going to pause right there because we talk about this a lot in Profesh Sesh, right? Like when you apply for a job, who's actually seeing your resume? Is it human? Is it an AI? And how does that really affect your chances? So I'm going to pause and let you weigh in.
Yeah, I think, goodness, there are so many different questions that I have here. I think technology for the most part, when it's built, again, it's math, right? It's very finite. It's like this plus this equals this, right? So it's maybe not even the AI, but maybe it's education on the user who's inputting the information. Like, let's say it's the recruiter using the software in a way that is causing the AI not to function in the manner in which it was created to function. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, they think that they're using it the correct way and they're inputting these keywords and not knowing that potentially entering these keywords is going to overly limit the amount of resumes that come in versus do the sifting that it's organically supposed to do. So if you don't have floor buffing, it's automatically going to remove. I want to know how many candidates actually populated them. Probably zero for that recruiter. But my point is, I wonder just how much of that is user error for the lack of education on how to properly use the software and the AI that's in the back end trying to do what it was created to do. But all of that removed, yes, this just comes to the fact that like we still need humans in specific work jobs that we are so used to relying on technology for. So it's not just a one and done. I think that it's got to be this combination, this nice hybrid of using the technology to help, um, some of the nuances, but using the technology in the appropriate way where it's not going to hinder several people from being considered from a role that they're actually very qualified for. And again, that's not, that only doesn't hinder the person applying for the job, it also hinders the recruiter and the company, because are you getting all of the candidates that you should be considering, and somebody that would be a really great value add to your company because of an algorithm, or user error with the program that your company's using for recruiting or for sifting the resumes. So yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. It's not surprising.
Yeah, well, clearly they're not getting the most qualified candidates because
No floor
AI
buffers
screening
out
comes out.
there.
I know, right? And it's interesting because the article I read said over reliance on software in the hiring world seems to have created this vicious cycle. Back in the early 2010s, the average corporate job posting attracted 120 applicants, but that number has now risen to 250 applicants per job. And so companies are now responding to this huge influx of job applicants because it's easier to find jobs and apply for jobs online by deploying brutally rigid filters in their automated filterings. Plus, the use of software in general in the recruiting process is a huge industry in and of itself. And
Mhm.
so, a lot of companies, according to the study, are aware. I think it said nearly 9 out of 10 executives surveyed for this report said they know that automated software is mistakenly filtering out viable candidates, but they're busy and they don't necessarily write the software themselves. And so they're relying on it. And it's just a bit of a mess. And so, yeah, to your point, I don't know what the solution is if the first step in any job application process is going to be filtering it um, through AI, but clearly it's something that needs to be addressed because it's to the detriment of the candidate and, to your point, the company, because they're not even finding people who don't need to know floor buffing to be an
Well,
awesome
exactly. And
addition to their team.
another thing that we talk about too is not just submitting your resume through the appropriate channels to be considered, but to go that step further, reach out to recruiters in that area or in that organization, HR people, the people within the department that you're wanting to work in, just to kind of start conversations, and especially if you really feel you're qualified and potentially you've received something that's automated. I hate when they get automated responses from things, but especially when I've been in the job market before and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, or we've decided to move in a different direction. It's kind of like, is this just the AI sending this to me? Did anybody's
Yeah.
tube eyeballs look through this? So I wonder if it's worth doing a profesh sesh on if you've received an automated response, or if you still feel you're really qualified for a position, if you should bring that up with a recruiter through a LinkedIn message, or have that virtual coffee and say, hey, like, want to pick your brain. What can I do better next time to stand out above the rest? I feel like I had these qualifications. Did someone look at this resume, or was it the software? Like, is it appropriate to ask those questions? Because
Mhm.
clearly, we're sorry if you're hearing the thunder out here, but but clearly there's an issue. And the system is not as fail safe as we think it is.
Absolutely. And, I just read an article on LinkedIn recently um, that asked the question, is it appropriate? And do recruiters expect candidates to reach out to them directly in addition to going through the application procedure? And the answer
Mhm.
was overwhelmingly yes. So if you are reticent about reaching out personally on LinkedIn when you submit a resume to a position in which you're interested in applying, um, don't be reticent. Just go ahead and reach out and say, I want you to know I sent this resume in and would love to be considered, and just,
Mhm.
keep it short and sweet, but don't be shy about doing that, because that human to human connection is expected. And it's also what will probably advance your application through the process if you are a qualified candidate. The other tip is, and we talk about this on Profesh Sesh, is using words in your resume and in your cover letter that match words in the job posting, which is such a pain to have to keep redoing your resume. But given that this is the sort of technological feedback loop that we're in, the process
Yep,
that we're in, you kind of have to do that. But listen to Profesh Sesh. We release those every Thursday because we have lots of great tips like that.
absolutely. And yes, I just want to echo that it's a complete pain. I think that
Yes.
looking for a job is like one of the worst. It's almost like moving. Moving is like the worst. And you accumulate so much crap along the way and you don't realize until you're packing it up in boxes. I just feel like searching for a job is a full-time job, and it's exhausting and frustrating, especially when you're not making headway, when you're not getting um actionable feedback, like the whole, like, we've moved in a different direction. Great.
Yeah.
What's some
Why?
tangible, what can I walk away with? What can
Yeah.
what would have made you consider even like interviewing me for the role? So it's just one of those things that I think that, again, human connection, there's something to be spoken for that. And if you could reach out to somebody and just have a short conversation, I mean, even 5 minutes would be so valuable versus
Mhm.
just an email, one and done, like, you know
It's
good luck.
demoralizing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, moving on, we always talk about privacy, and Twitter is testing a soft block safety feature, and that's part of their privacy initiative, and it's in beta right now. But it's allowing users to go through their followers and click the unfollow button versus blocking them, because blocking them and that person going on and then seeing, like, if they were supposed to, like, go onto your Twitter, Sue, and see that they've missed tweets, they know that you've blocked them. So this is basically a workaround. You can go in and unfollow the follower on your profile, and they're trying also to do it where you can go to that person if their screen name, go to that person specifically, and then click on the three dots next to them, and then an unfollow, like, for your profile, will populate. um, so basically, again, is a safety feature. They're calling it a soft block. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, Sue, because obviously a lot of people are out there, and there are several. All right, there are the nefarious users out there wanting to stalk people and do, the trolls that we call them, to demoralize people and say things that aren't so nice and break them down, right? And then there are people that really are following people for other reasons, right? Like, uplifting things, and people that admire people, obviously people that look up to celebrities and follow celebrities' work and really enjoy the things that they're putting out on the internet. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's interesting because it's sort of like a sea change in a way. Like at first, everybody, the big push was to get lots of followers, whether you're on
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really on Twitter very much, but I am on Instagram. And in order to be a person of influence on these platforms, you are supposed to have a certain number of followers. And that was considered a very desirable thing. And people work really hard to get that. And then you get there and you're like, well, why? What do I do now? Maybe I don't want all these people following me. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to hear feedback from everybody. And I know in Instagram, they've also rolled out ways to sort of subtly block content that you don't want to see. And you can, for example, mute followers
Mm-hmm.
or mute people that you follow so that
Exactly.
you're not unfollowing them, but you're not seeing their stuff pop up on your feed all the
Every
time.
5 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's just this, I think we're all kind of getting our legs under us about like how much we really want to be accessible to people and which people that we do want to be accessible to and the degree. I mean, it's just, it's something that I think everybody's still figuring out. And as you were sharing that information, Vanessa, it got me thinking we should do an episode on WeGraph about the mental health effects of social media, because I think
Yes.
all this ties into mental health, right? Like if you have trolls who are trying to knock you down, or if you're seeing content from somebody that you were in a relationship with that you kind of, things have changed in that relationship and you're not wanting to see that all the time. All these things are like paying for your attention and your emotions. And that does take a toll. So I think that would be a really interesting topic to
Exactly.
cover with a mental health professional, because this is all so new, right?
I agree. I agree completely. And then we always need to take it a step further. The things that people post, I mean, it really makes you kind of,
Mm.
I think it's an organic thing to think, okay, wow, like, what am I doing with my life? This person's always posting all these amazing things. They're going on these exotic vacations. They always look like, they walked off of a photo shoot set, that type of thing. And it's literally smoke and mirrors. Obviously, we've talked about that too. So
Mhm.
it's a combination of those things. But yeah, I read this and I thought automatically, like, Facebook, I feel like has done this for a while, right? You mentioned the muting, um, especially, and I think that Facebook has kind of taken a toll of like being this political, I don't even know what, right? Like,
Mhm.
people get up on their soapboxes and they're talking all this crazy stuff and they're really perpetuating a lot of negativity, which I hate. And sometimes Facebook is like usually like family and friends, right? Like that's like the platform that I feel like, has been around the longest, if you will. And people kind of just have like those old high school friends, old college friends that you don't talk to very often, but it's a way to kind of keep tabs. And then obviously family members that are still there. Um, so blocking someone is a little more noticed there,
Mhm.
because if they automatically don't see information that you're posting, if you're an active poster, that whole thing. So the whole muting thing that Twitter has, Facebook has had for a while, where you can, like, um, I don't remember what it's called, but basically the same thing, where like they're not going to see all of your posts. If you're going to post something, you can actually like select who you want to see, who you want to see the post that you're posting, all the things. So yeah, it kind of reminded me of that, but this is taking it that extra step further, which you touched on it, in a world now, especially like as an influencer and people that content creators that want to attract followers. It is removing the follower from your profile. So, you're going to reduce your followers by that amount. And how does that affect algorithms and all that? Now, if you're like a huge influencer and a celebrity, I think that it's like a null and void thing. But if you're up and coming, what does that do to your algorithm in all of the things, like as you're growing, if you're doing this little by little versus like, you know,
Yeah.
when it becomes a thing, when you have a multiple, or a big following. So anyway, it's just interesting.
It is interesting. I don't know how, social media is making, I think a lot of us question how social do we really want to be? And is it really
Yeah.
social too, or is it antisocial in many cases? And
Mm-hmm.
when you were saying that about the political content on Facebook, like to me, social media is so not the place to have a conversation about controversial topics, because you can't have an intelligent and thoughtful conversation and a respectful conversation in 140 characters, or in a post that's flying through somebody's feed. That's just not the place to do it. And it might make you feel better because you're venting, but I think it diminishes the art of conversation, and especially around topics that require really thought out and intentional conversations. And that's unfortunately the types of content that people seem to like to post about. So,
I agree. And
um,
then you have like a huge audience too, right? It's not just like a one-on-one conversation that you're having, or even like an intimate group of people. You have like everyone and their mother on Facebook, literally liking, laughing, all the emojis that you can react to these things. So now it becomes a show, right? And
mhm.
then it does get lost. The meaning, the intention behind the conversation gets completely lost. So it's literally, I'm only on Facebook for certain family members that I want to keep tabs with, that I maybe don't just pick up the phone and call, and pictures and things like that. But it's one of my least favorite, just because it has become that soundboard for just all kinds of crappy topics that I don't want to have a conversation about, to your point,
Right.
online.
Right. Like there are things that I may see that I agree or disagree with, but if they're important things, they merit a more thoughtful and intentional way of having that conversation. And you're just not going to find that in social media. So,
Mm-hmm. Well,
oh,
anyway,
well.
yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, keep an eye on that if that's something of interest to you. They're testing that soft block on Twitter. It's in the beta, and it will more than likely be rolled out sooner rather than later.
So, since we're on the topic of social media, we're going to talk next about a platform that neither Vanessa nor I am really on. And we've talked about getting on TikTok, but it just feels overwhelming to me. And I'm just not there. Yeah. But it's interesting because TikTok's users now spend more time each month watching content than YouTube users spend on their platform watching content. And that's according to a recent report from app analytics firm App Annie. If you are a TikToker, you on average watch 24 hours of content per month, compared with 22 hours and 40 minutes if you're a YouTuber watching YouTube videos. And in the UK, the difference was even more stark. TikTok overtook YouTube in May of 2020. Users there now reportedly watch almost 26 hours of content a month, compared to less than 16 on YouTube. And these figures are only, I guess, collected for Android users. So the iOS users would probably skew that, and I don't know what direction. But what it's saying is that TikTok is on its way to ruling the social universe, I guess. I don't know. What do you think, Vanessa?
I think I think it is. I mean, I agree. Everyone that I talk to, because I'm literally the only one, or our family is the only one that doesn't have TikTok on our phones. They love it and they're always on it. And in theory, it would be an app that I would be all about, because my family is very artistic and we're always like, doing skits and performing. And it just seems like so fun and right up my alley, but I'm scared of it. And maybe it's because of the things, obviously, that we talk about all the time, and privacy and all of the back end things that it's set up to do that it really doesn't need access to, but automatically that's just the way the developers chose to put it out into the universe. So that kind of freaks me out. But do I think that, I mean, yeah, everyone is on it, minus me and you. Like everyone is on it. So I agree. And I mean, we see these numbers and it's not at all surprising. I think it's just gone on and up and up and up. And I think obviously during the pandemic too, it was another way for people to connect with each other. I mean, just anyone and everyone from all around the world putting out all kinds of different content, and it's visual. It's like, hey, I like this thing, so I'm going to show you more of the thing that you like to watch. I mean, yeah, it's like a YouTube on steroids, and that doesn't, I mean, the numbers don't surprise me.
Yeah. Well, and it's short form content. I think that the average TikTok video can be up to 3 minutes, and on YouTube, it's up to 10 minutes. Although YouTube has now, I guess they're striking back with having YouTube Shorts to maybe compete with TikTok on the super short content. But App Annie, which is this app analytics company, says that short video, authentic content, and live streaming are really what our people are excited about now. And so that's what is spurring TikTok's engagement. YouTube still has overall many, many more users than TikTok does. Over 2 billion compared to TikTok's 700 million, but TikTok's on the ascendant. And it's interesting because my daughters were on TikTok for a while, and then they got freaked out by all the privacy concerns that were raised by it, and also had, thankfully, the self-awareness to say, is this the best way to spend time? Because it's kind of addicting, right? I mean, social media in general can be kind of addicting. And if you're watching fun, entertaining, silly videos, it can be, it can suck obviously 24 hours out of your month. That's an entire day, people.
It is.
What else could you do at that time?
Totally. So. Well, and you mentioned something like with the data, and what was the platform that still, is it Facebook? That's still above Twitter, or sorry, above TikTok. YouTube is still above TikTok.
YouTube, just in terms of
users. But I would probably argue that the engagement on TikTok is greater, even though the users are, it's a smaller number. So I mean, that's what you want, right? It's like that quality of user versus the quantity, because if you have those active, engaged users, that means more for the platform.
Right. And they are more engaged than the YouTube.
Yeah, clearly are. Yeah, again, I wish that I wasn't so scared of it. Because I think that I would really enjoy it, and it would be probably fun. I feel like they make it, at least if they have that much engagement, they probably make it super easy for people to record and upload their videos. Like, it's probably like they don't even have a second to think, should I not? It's like, record, smile, go, boom, you're done. So yeah, it's I really wish, because I want to play with it, but I'm too scared. I think that maybe if it was just me, I'm trying to think of me pre-mom days, like pre-kids, I may have done it. I may have been like, you know, anybody that really wants to follow me or capture my data is already doing it anyway, fine. But now that I have like kids, I think it's different.
Yeah, I tried a couple times to get on TikTok, but I wasn't in the app long enough for the algorithm to figure out what I like. And so much of it was just like what you stereotypically, if you're a mom, think of TikTok as being in your brain, which frankly was kind of stupid. So I never really got to the content that was targeted towards me. And I think there's really great content on there and like clever life hacks and home decorating and things that I really am interested in. But I just never stayed in there long enough to get to those, to get the algorithm to match me up with those things. But I do like Instagram Reels. And a lot of times what Instagrammers will do, because that's my platform of choice, is they'll take TikTok hacks and then or TikTok stories, whatever they're called, and they'll make an Instagram reel out of them. So I catch them. It's like catching
Well,
the
yeah.
rerun.
Yeah. You're right. We do get it through like a filter, the Instagram filter,
Yeah.
which I feel a little more comfortable with. But then again, it's like I say that out loud and then we're talking about Facebook
I
owning
know,
Instagram.
right?
So again, at the end of the day, I'm like, is it just like one big loop? Like, does it matter? I think that for me, it just comes down to like my family will probably be in the background because they're with me all the time. So like, do I really want that out on TikTok?
I
I mean,
know.
but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's like we talk about the black holes of the universe and the internet and the metaverse and all the things. So
And here
yeah,
we are on Twitch. So obviously we like you guys.
we do.
But yes, there's a lot of ways to put yourself out there. It's hard to take yourself back
Yeah.
though.
Oh, okay. Well, since we've mentioned Facebook.
Mhm.
Um, Facebook has been teasing like since early this year a partnership with Ray-Ban on these augmented reality sunglasses. I call it glasses, AR glasses that are going to be coming out. Um, the funny thing about this, Sue, and I mentioned it right before we started recording, is that this teaser is literally like, "Hey, we're coming out with these AR glasses. We're partnering with Ray-Ban, and they're going to do some quote unquote really neat things." But then, like in the same breath, they're like, they're not going to be traditional augmented reality glasses, which for those who don't know, augmented reality projects digital images over your real world. So, any type of graphics or whatever would automatically be populating into your real world. It's like an overlay, if you will. It's not going to do that. So they haven't really explained the quote unquote augmented reality technology. There's speculation that it's going to like connect to your phone or your wearable device and it'll do some connectivity things. Will you be able to make phone calls? Maybe. Has not been verified, nor it has not been confirmed. So basically, the new thing is on September 9th, as of this recording, again, it says September 9th, there's going to be a notification of a release, something that's going to happen. Like it could be more information about what these glasses are going to do. It could be that the glasses are going to be released. Who knows? But they keep leaving us in this limbo. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, why can't we get some straight answers? There's literally videos of Mark Zuckerberg like golfing and doing active things. I think another one's him in a kayak wearing the glasses. And I'm waiting. I was like waiting to see because he's wearing it. It's like the point of view of him wearing the glasses. I'm like, what's going to happen? Like, what is the technology? There's nothing. There's literally, it's just like a home video of Mark Zuckerberg, like doing active things. So I'm just curious as to why they keep like keeping us on our toes. Like they've already said that there's not going to be anything crazy augmented reality like we know it. So then what's the buzz? Like, why?
I think maybe you're answering your own question, Vanessa. Maybe they're getting us to talk about it because they're being so mysterious.
I don't
You
know. I'm
know,
annoyed.
building a sense of mystery about it. So I feel like it's either one of two things. Either it is part of their strategy to like sort of build a big reveal and get people curious and talking about it, or They don't have a clue they haven't figured out yet what they're coming up with that's going to be so different. And so they're still kind of building the airplane that they're flying. So I don't know.
Maybe.
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
either. It's interesting. I mean, again, we've talked about that it's a smart move on Facebook's part to get into like developing hardware. And their whole ploy with this is to help build the metaverse. I get it. Smart. They're a technology company, a successful technology company. Cool. But usually when people do these types of things, there's like some weight behind what they're doing, like, Apple. I mean, Apple teases things, but they're good teasers. Like, oh, it's rumored to have X, Y, and Z. It's rumored to have like, this is literally like neat things. What is a neat thing? Like, what does that mean?
Define that term. And, but it's got to be hard to keep coming up with things that dazzle and amaze, even if you're Facebook, even if you're Apple, even if you're any tech giant. It's got to be difficult to keep trumping the last thing that you did,
Agreed.
and so maybe they're hitting some sort of inflection point where, maybe they don't want to over raise people's expectations, because it's not going to be, maybe neat things aren't that neat.
Well, I'm thinking like, is it back to basics? Is it like the augmented reality glasses for like the non-tech? Like, I don't even know. Like, is it just like this? I don't know. It's like a what do they call it? Not niche, but is it the hook? Is that the hook that it doesn't do anything? It just like it's rumored to do something. It's like the retro version of what augmented reality is. I have no idea. I don't know the creative behind it. I'm just trying to get creative with it because it's really annoying to not have any basis. I mean, Ray-Ban's cool. Ray-Ban's been they're OGs, right? Like, they've been around for a very long time. They're partnering with Facebook, but like, something great will come of it, I'm sure. But like, what is it? I don't know. September 9th, supposedly we'll get some type of information.
We only have another, what's today, the 7th or the 8th? I don't even know, but you
I don't
only,
know. Yeah.
very close to getting there. Maybe it'll be like on our website. We have one of our hero images on one of our web pages is one of those old school viewfinders where you turn the dial and it's, maybe we're going back to that.
Yes.
I don't know. All right.
I like that idea though. The viewfinder.
Yeah. So speaking of Facebook, this was kind of interesting news going back to privacy and data collection and all the things. There was an investigative report done by the investigative journalist, but slightly left-leaning ProPublica, saying that Facebook employs more than 1,000 workers who reportedly read through millions of messages on the data encrypted WhatsApp messaging service, which is owned by Facebook. So Facebook bought WhatsApp for $19 billion back in 2014, and Mark Zuckerberg promised users that their data would remain safe and unscreened by the company. However, ProPublica's report says that Facebook has hired 1,000 people in Texas, Ireland, and Singapore to look through users' content. And so this is pretty controversial, obviously. Now, just to clarify, it's not clear that they're just reading everybody's content, but when users of WhatsApp flag something as being potentially criminal activity, I guess they somehow flag that. And those are the messages that are being read through to report to law enforcement. So it's supposed to be for, security purposes, anti-terrorism, anti-pornography, anti-bullying, whatever, that type of information. So not so much content moderation as safety, but it still, makes it clear that something that's encrypted, WhatsApp, which claims to be encrypted and has it all over all over its site, is readable. That's there.
You had mentioned this to me before, when we were reviewing our articles, and I couldn't believe that, because the first thing you see when you log into a WhatsApp and you go to start a conversation with someone is that it is all encrypted. I mean, it's literally all over the app. So this definitely goes against that.
It's encrypted.
Yes.
Ish.
In ish, right? The ISH. But it's like, I mean, obviously we want things to be safe and secure. And if this piece of it is going to catch nefarious users. Awesome. However, I wonder how much is hidden under that umbrella, right? Like how much is hidden under, no, we're using this to catch the bad guys, but opens up a loophole.
Mhm. Yeah,
And that's where I'm like, and I hate to think that way, but it's reality, right? Like,
it's reality. Yeah.
is this going to open up something where it could be used against anybody, not just the bad guys? And how do they determine that? And how many oopses are there going to be? Like, oops, nope, this person wasn't doing anything bad.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Well, and I think for me, I get that law enforcement wants to take advantage of technologies like social platforms and messaging platforms to catch nefarious actors. That makes a lot of sense. You have a tool available in your quiver that you didn't have before. I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, then you don't put all over the app, this is encrypted, right? Like you don't go out of your way to make everybody think that whatever content they have on that app is secure and only visible to the end recipient. You just don't make a claim that you can't back up or that you knowingly are not upholding. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Right. And again, if we're going to use AI, which we know isn't, again, I'm not going to say the AI. Maybe the AI isn't perfect. Maybe it's the user, of the software isn't perfect. How many of those users are you really like just spying on at the end of the day? We talk about families take pictures of their kids all the time. I mean, my kids sometimes run around naked, and it's part of just being a family. You take pictures, you got a naked baby butt running around, and you share that with friends and family on an encrypted service like WhatsApp. Is that going to be flagged? And is that now going to be opened up by some other person on the other side of the world looking at my child's baby bottom? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So then there are other things that come into play there. Um, I'll open it up too. Like, hey, there are a lot of people in long distance relationships, and hey, sexting is a thing and it's healthy for people who are away from each other. You're using an encrypted service and you're sending it over. Are those going to get flagged? What words, what things, what keywords is AI going to pick up that then allows these people to open up your string of messages and kind of spy on you? I don't know. Is again, I get the cause, and if it's strictly for that cause, fantastic. But I think there are other things and other loopholes that opens up.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, don't put anything out there that you don't want to have come back and haunt you, because it's just the reality of these kinds of technologies. And a lot of times people who are using social media or texting, or like I think about Snapchat and the images that disappear after a certain amount of time, like it doesn't really disappear, and people don't realize that. So I think you just have to use discretion, because technology requires it of us now, because it's all
Mm-hmm.
evolving and we don't know what eyes are going to be on our content, and we can never assume that our content is only going to the eyes for whom we intended it. And if you make that assumption, you do it to your own, at your own risk.
Yeah, no, I guess you're right. But I mean, again,
It
there
just
are
is.
those realities out there too,
Oh, I
right?
know.
Like where it's like, you know, uh, if anybody's ever been in a long distance relationship, those conversations happen. And if you want to send a nice little surprise text, to your partner from far
Just know what
away,
you're doing. And then
so it's
stop
like,
with them.
it is what it is. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean,
It'd be
you're right.
nice if you could confine it to that person, but you can tell yourself that, but just be prepared, because you're
In case
not,
you show up on Google Images one day.
Hey, maybe you'll become famous. I don't know.
The silver
Anyway.
lining, apparently.
Oh my gosh. Do you have any more, or do you want me to hop
No,
on to the last one? Okay. So
last one. Let's do it.
last one, I thought this was pretty interesting, that Bitcoin is now, for the first time ever in the world, an official currency of a country. El Salvador has made Bitcoin a second official currency alongside the US dollar, and they're accepting it as legal tender. So supporters argue that the move will make it cheaper and easier for migrants to send money home to El Salvador, which is important given that those types of remittances account for over 24% of the country's gross domestic product. And over 70% of the country's active population don't currently have a bank account. However, we all know, and I don't know much about cryptocurrency, but I do know that it's very volatile. And Bitcoin hit a historic high of over $60,000 in April before losing half its value in a crash later on this summer. So all that to say that it's a kind of risky move, and it's led the rating agency Moody's to downgrade El Salvador's debt rating. And the International Monetary Fund has also warned about its potentially destabilizing effects. But they've installed ATMs in El Salvador to convert between dollars and cryptocurrency and other currencies. And they're really trying to push this as a second currency for the country. However, so far it's not really taking off. Very few businesses seem to be ready for the change. The Financial Times surveyed over 20 enterprises in the capital and found that only 3 said they had immediate plans to accept cryptocurrency, and others haven't even started their preparations. And even beyond that, 70% of Salvadorans disagreed with the decision to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender. So, sign of the times. We're actually going to have a guest on our show in the coming weeks who's an expert in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to kind of unpack what that all means and where she thinks it's going. But first time any country in the world has accepted Bitcoin as a legal tender or official.
Well, I've been very open and transparent about wanting to deep dive into this a little bit more. I have very little knowledge of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. What's the exchange rate on that stuff? Like if you have Bitcoin and you want that in US dollars, like what is it? Like
apparently it can fluctuate very, very rapidly.
Well, exactly. So, yeah. It's very volatile.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me that a country would be, we love early adopters, right? Like early adoption is awesome, it's forward thinking, but that is like let's just jump in with both feet and cross our fingers type of thing, because it is so up and down. And that is what we've seen and what we've heard, right? There are people that have either been very successful or very unsuccessful. And I feel like there's no in between. And it's still so ambiguous to so many that I think that, it is a bold move. And I see it being scary for people that, especially that live there, like, what does this mean? What is this, is this like a, coming of the times, like you had said, like, what is this for the future of our country now? Right. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to even have an intelligent conversation on my feelings about them actually installing ATMs to purchase Bitcoin or to even exchange Bitcoin. I have no idea.
Well, it's sort of interesting to me because if 70% of the population doesn't have a bank account, what are the drivers behind that? Is it because I know in some countries, population doesn't trust banks because of experiences that they've had, in coups and things like that, where the financial institutions haven't protected their interests. So is cryptocurrency and Bitcoin a more trustworthy place to invest your savings or to contain your savings? I don't know. But again, we are going to have a guest on the We Get Real AF podcast talking to us about cryptocurrency and kind of explaining this to us, because I think it is very, very new, not just to you and me, Vanessa, but to a lot of our listeners as well.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I'm just like, my mind is exploding just thinking about it. But yeah, and then you think of people who, this is a digital currency. A lot of people, especially in these countries outside of the US, right? They use a lot of hard money. When we talk about like tangible money and traditional potential bank accounts, they may not use the tools that are accessible online, and this is completely online. These are like when I say numbers on a screen, and I operate like that to an extent too, right? Like my bank, and I see the numbers, and I very rarely have hard cash on me. But it's very interesting to me how this is all going to adapt. Like we're all going to have to adapt. I mean, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think
Exactly.
so.
It's
Yeah.
not going away. We got to figure this out, Vanessa.
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, that's what we've got for this week's Tech Talk. And again, we bring these to you weekly. And thanks so much for listening, everybody.
See you next time.
How about Twitch World?